Hi everybody, Kim Wilson here, and today I'm going to show you how to do the faux silk technique. This is just a really old technique that is coming back in style as things come and go. And when I got my paper pumpkin kit this month, I noticed the really cool gold tissue paper in it. So I thought, oh, that's a good use for that tissue paper. I've seen a few people to just use it straight as a background, but I decided to use it as a background using the faux silk technique. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. If you haven't signed up for my newsletter, here is the QR code for it. And there'll be lots of details that I'll post in it tomorrow about the color refresh, which I find out about later today. So maybe I'll even hop on live again today and post some tidbits of what's happening with the new color refresh, and demonstrators get to see the new catalog today too. So anyhow, on to the faux silk technique. So I did the gold paper for my sample here, and I'm gonna actually show you how to do it with blue, because blue is the paper that usually comes with paper pumpkin. And I also used the free stamp set that came in the March kit. So it has that beautiful lily design, and the happy, and it has Easter, spring, and to call you friend, anniversary. So a really nice stamp set for many occasions. So the first thing I did was stamp the leaf stamp, this leaf stamp here, on the tissue paper. And I already did it on my blue one for the sample, and I did it on the gold one. It's a little fainter on the gold, and mainly that's because the gold, it has kind of a shiny surface, and so it didn't absorb very well, very different than the blue tissue. So as you can see by my hands and the counter, I got a lot of green ink all over the place because I didn't notice that it hadn't dried very well. So if you do decide to do this with the gold, you might want to either just use the plain tissue paper without stamping, or make sure that the ink dries or is dabbed off before you start the rest of your card. So first thing we did was just stamp on the tissue, and then we're going to do something really fun and just crumple it up as tight as you can get it, because we want lots of wrinkles on that tissue. So after it's stamped, we crumple it and then just slowly open it up, but we don't want to open it up and flatten it, because we want those wrinkles to stay in there. So there's a couple different ways you can adhere it to your card base, and I have my measurements right there if you can see those. So you could put liquid glue all over your panel, and I'm just using a panel of Whisper or Basic White here. So you could just cover it with liquid glue and then plop down the tissue. And whichever technique you do, just make sure you keep those wrinkles in there, because that's what gives it that silky look. I decided to use adhesive sheets, so we'll see how that works. I'm not sure which one is messier. Liquid glue is messy, and these are a little bit messy. I cut it the same size as my cardstock backing. Now I have to find where I can peel it. There's little slits to peel these off. So let's see, I think I've got 3 pieces here. So peel that one off and that one off, and you get a little stickiness on the sides, but that's how these work. These adhesive sheets are perfect for running through with fine die cuts, because they really help hold those pieces together, and it almost makes little stickers out of them. So okay, I'm just going to put that down and rub it, try to get it on the edges there. All right, now when I peel this off, the adhesive should stick to the tissue paper. So it's a little bit easier, I think, than using the liquid glue. The only problem with it is as you're peeling it, you have to be really careful. You don't want it to rip, and you don't want to lose your wrinkles. So we'll see if this works. Otherwise, I might have to go back to the liquid glue. Pulling it kind of slow because I don't want it to tear. Okay, now you can kind of see I've got sticky all over there. And then I'm going to turn it and plop it down onto my piece here. And I want to keep it kind of wrinkly, so I'm kind of patting it down with the wrinkles. And then once you have it in place, you can just kind of pat it down all the way, because then your wrinkles will just flatten out like that. So there's my piece. All right, so you could trim around it with scissors, or I think actually maybe I'll take the liquid glue and try. I thought when I made my sample, I might try just putting glue all around the edges, and I'm tapping it really hard because this glue bottle is almost empty. So that's the best way to do it when it's empty. Use the big end and then kind of tap it around. And I'm just going to spread that with my finger, and then push this over onto the back. I think that'll make a nicer edge rather than cutting it. So we'll see how this works. But play around with this technique. You've got lots of tissue paper. You just use a tiny little piece of tissue paper, and then you've got all this, all the rest to play with. So you can do several different ones. I didn't cut this piece very big, but I guess that's going to work. All right, then we'll flip that over. I'll add some more glue and put that on. Oh, you know what? I was going to try using dimensionals instead of glue. My sample, which is right here, I just glued it right down, but I think I'm going to try, I use the silicone mat whenever I'm gluing something messy. It protects the work surface. So dimensionals, yes, let's try a couple dimensionals on the edges and see how that works. I think maybe that'll be cool. We'll see. All right, and then just put this on my card base, and I just use basic white again for my base. Peel these tops off, and of course they'll end up all over the place, including stuck to my fingers because they're still a little sticky. Okay, let's see what that looks like. There we go. There it is from the front. And then I'll grab my card base here and bone folder. And then stick that on. That's centered. I think I should have had a little bit bigger piece of tissue paper. I'm going to have to repair that a little bit with a little liquid glue. Get that tucked in there. There, that looks pretty good. All right, so that's my background with the faux silk technique. And now I have just a couple of panels here. Since this paper pumpkin kit came with a polished pink ink spot, I decided to use polished pink for my mat, and so I will glue that down, and I kind of made mine put it down a little crooked just for interest's sake, and then add my lily. And again, this is from the free stamp set that came with this kit in honor of the 10-year anniversary of Paper Pumpkin, and I wanted to show you how I colored the lily. I just did some polished pink around the edges of the flower, and then garden green on the leaves because I stamped the background in garden green. And I just took an acrylic block and dabbed my ink pads, both the spot and the big pad, on a block, and then just picked up the ink with a blender pen. So that's an easy way for coloring, and especially if you're using the spots, because you can't squeeze the ink pads with the spots. So you just dab it on a ink block or a acrylic block, and that makes a fun, easy way to do that. So if you did get the paper pumpkin kit, the refills are up in the store right now. I just checked and they're still available today, and you can grab your refill. That does not include the stamp set, so you had to have the subscription to get this was the one that came with it, and then the extra freebie for the 10-year anniversary. So I've got I made one of each card, and then I'm going to check out some of the alternates and see if I want to change them up. But this kit had such nice sentiment, so I'm going to be sending out some Easter cards, and then my mom has her birthday coming up next month, and then there's Mother's Day, so I need 2 cards for her. So I'll use this to a wonderful mother, and there's also to an incredible woman stamp too, which fits in that block. So a lot of great options for putting together the kit. And I've got my Skip to the Fun paper pumpkin pin, a little nostalgia. This, I think, was one of the original pins that came out when paper pumpkin was brand new. So we've got the old logo and the old little saying there for paper pumpkin. Just a little touch of nostalgia here because it's 10 years old, and I have had every single kit and made most of them, almost all, so I'm pretty proud of myself. So anyways, this is the faux silk technique, so try it with your leftover tissue paper from paper pumpkin, or just grab some tissue that you have on hand and give that a try. It's a little bit messy, so have a work surface that's like a grid paper or a silicone mat to work on, but it really gives that really cool technique where you've got the that wrinkly kind of fabric kind of look. So hope you enjoyed this technique and give it a try. Happy crafting!